All right, everybody. This is my first vertical live stream, so let me know how it works out. Let me know if you have any suggestions. Make sure that you can hear me. I'm not even sure if I can see the chat. We're gonna work the kinks out, but this is basically to celebrate the 15,000 followers on Instagram, give you a little bit of an idea of what I do on YouTube as well, and specifically answer your questions that you have so kindly shared with me. This is probably gonna be half an hour, maybe up to an hour. I have a bunch of questions here, and you should feel absolutely free to post any questions that you have in the chat right now. And I will try to get to them as well. And of course, you know the rules. If you can actually let me know with a super chat, obviously I will try to prioritize those as well. I'll start with the easiest question to answer. Hey, Ossi. That's what I get for sitting in an alley. Hi, Ryan. It's great. That's fantastic. I love seeing some familiar faces because I do live stream a lot on YouTube. I have taken maybe a few months off now, but those are kind of a more freewheeling, long-form conversations where the focus is always on the watches, but it's uh, much less dense than how I imagine these live streams are going to be. The first question that I got was, what watch do I see most on the wrists of public figures that I cover? And, you know, I don't want to answer that directly because I, I'm very biased, right? I do this as a business, yes, but what I like, what I prefer, what I want to highlight is always on the forefront. So I don't really do watch spotting in the way that some more popular or less popular accounts do. I don't like creating content that's like, oh, hey, look at this cool watch on the guy's wrist. You know, because he's cool, the watch is cool. I don't like that. I want to create something of substance, something that gives you an idea of that historical context, something that informs you, educates you on that particular watch. So I always choose watches and people that I feel passionate about. That passion can be sometimes negative form of passion as well. I mean, I've shared watches that belong to some, questionable and controversial historical figures. That doesn't necessarily mean I like those people, although it almost invariably means that I like the watches. Hi, Hi, St. Peter. Love seeing all these lovely people. Please hit the like button, by the way, while you're at it. Um, so, you should never take uh, what I post as a reflection of what watches contemporary celebrities like to wear. And I think that's a very slanted perspective anyways, because most of the time, and I'm sure, you know, my audience is very educated and very informed and very aware. So you already know this, but you know, they wear watches from brands that endorse them. The watches a lot of times are picked out by their stylists, put on their wrists, and they are there to be shown for that particular occasion, for the award season. You know, so you shouldn't really be paying attention to that anyways. Now, answering the question in the simplest manner, when I cover something deeply historical, chances are it's going to be either a vintage Rolex sports watch, it could be a cool AP. A lot of times that's a Royal Oak or a complicated Patek sometimes, or some sort of odd, historically significant chronograph. That's what happens. If I cover things that are more contemporary, I have to say there is an outsized popularity of AP, of Audemars Piguet, um, in the circles of celebrity today. And I think that that is something that they have very successfully done and very intentionally um, cultivated since early 2000s. And you have to give props to them, even if you don't necessarily like the commercial, horological or artistic direction that they went. And we are going to talk about that because someone did ask me about the new releases, and I do want to talk about them. The new AP releases. Never mind, I'm based in Los Angeles. I live here. I'm an American. That's who I am. Aman Jatav, nice to see you. Hi to you as well. The next question that I had was about this little AP that I keep wearing. It's the 14800 with the military dial, 14800 BA. So it's kind of an odd bird, so to speak. Um, and I made that purchase very intentionally because people who have been here with me for the long time, for the longest time, already know that I have always pined for a Royal Oak Jumbo, that I have always, that I've always uh, really, really aspired to get one, and I will. It was just not the right time for me yet, and I hope the current growth and the future growth of my platforms will help me get there. Um, but what I didn't want was to get a placeholder watch. I wanted something that was equally cool, that was just as cool as a Royal Oak Jumbo. At least I deem it just as cool, if not cooler than many Jumbos that I've seen. Something that has character. I looked at a lot of actually mid-sized and even smaller sized Royal Oaks from the time period from around the same time. I have looked at some of the complicated Royal Oaks from that same time, like the 25594, if memory serves, that should be the reference number for the for what they call the owl, the day date and moon phase. And listen, that's one of the things that I really, really love about that particular time period of AP, right? They would create these kinds of watches that packed a punch. Ultra thin, a lot of times 36, 37 millimeter in diameter at most, like Royal Oak annual calendars, Royal Oak day dates, Royal Oak day date moon phase. It's Royal Oak dual time, those were all available in the 36 millimeter dimension. So I really like that. There's even a watch that not many know of because it's incredibly rare, but should be perhaps more popular, and will probably get more popular now. That's a reference 25800. That's a 33 millimeter Royal Oak I think you can find it in stainless steel and yellow gold, so 25-800 ST or BA, self-winding, perpetual calendar. Mind-blowing stuff. Anyway, so I went and got this particular guy because I wanted something different. I wanted something that fits my aesthetic, which I think this really does. And you know, I kind of like older stuff anyways. A lot of precious metal watches nowadays, a lot of gold watches these days are made to shine forever. Whereas a lot of vintage and even neo-vintage stuff takes on some great patina. And this guy did, so it almost feels, that makes it feel more rugged, more authentic, and less precious in a way, and I like that. Would I fit it with a bracelet? That's another question that I got. I would not. And there is the option, right, in the sense that 14800 still remains to this day the only Royal Oak reference that can't be retrofitted with the bracelet, that is made to be worn exclusively on a strap. That being said, the sister reference, 14790, is available and is available with the military dial, though I have never seen one like that with a military dial and in full gold. It's usually the stainless steel version that is available. That being said, you know, you could easily do a project watch, right? You can get a 14790 BA and fit it with a military dial and the handset that goes with it, if that's really the aesthetic you want. But I wanted something that was just a little bit different than the Royal Oak that you see in person. And obviously, the ones you see in person come on bracelets, and people are right to think of Royal Oak as an integrated design, as a bracelet watch. That was the original idea, but there's so many other things that I love and that many others love about the Royal Oak. Vianouche says, do you have a 1675 without the bezel? I do not have a 1675. I do have a 16710 and 1675 3. And I like sometimes popping off the bezel just to get into that apocalypse now aesthetic. And Ryan Hoffrey says, talk to the IWC guy in Arizona. He said only one confirmed IWC Eternal calendar in the US, and some movie star is going to be wearing it. That's good for their marketing. That's good for their marketing. Please hit the like button, by the way, if you haven't done already. We are already ticking off some of the questions. If you have more, and if you want me to highlight them as well, you can always write in the chat. And if you want to contribute to the stream, that will be, of course, much appreciated. The other question, I really like this because sometimes I write these kinds of things to my diary, you know, journal entries. I saw the most amazing AP Royal Oak today. And the question was literally that, you know, what are some of the most interesting, most incredible Royal Oaks you have seen in person? By the way, I love the way that people from Le Processus and people, French-speaking people in general, who always call it the Royal Oak. I love that pronunciation. So what are some of the most interesting Royal Oaks that I've seen in person? The one that I just covered on the wrist of Ferdinando Brachetti Peretti on Instagram, check that out. It's like the penultimate post that I made. That's one of the most amazing, incredible pieces that I've had the pleasure of seeing in person, that particular reference. It's 25654 ST. That's basically only the second generation of the Royal Oak Perpetual calendar introduced in stainless steel. I like the fact that it has this monochromatic aesthetic, basically, with a lightly sandblasted gray dial, where the calendrical registers are shiny, and that particular combination, that particular interplay really reflects, of course, the stainless steel case and the fact that the case, bezel, and the bracelet have that interplay of grain brushed and highly polished surfaces. Thank you so much, Ryan. That's always appreciated, and you're a class act yourself. I really love you, and I appreciate your support so much. So in terms of vintage, that would be it. Of course, there's the 5554 and 25554. That's basically the first generation of Royal Oak Perpetual calendar. Beautiful pieces. That basically, that series started with literally the D series jumbo cases that they had, which were then fitted with a perpetual calendar modulated movement. At the end of the day, it's the same base movement, right? The JLC 920, so to speak, the ultra thin. So when they went to 25654, they actually upgraded the case construction, which made it a little thicker, but certainly much more robust and water resistant. So I love that reference. That would be my pick for vintage. If I, gun to head, if I have to respond right now with one choice. One modern, that takes me back to just a couple of years ago when I was in New York City, and I had the pleasure to attend an auction preview with Philips, and I wanted to hate this watch so much. I really wanted to hate on it, but couldn't. And it was the blue ceramic perpetual calendar. I think the reference number is 25679 CS. It's just beautiful. I know that particular shade of the blue was supposedly a mistake. They were aiming for something much deeper, much more navy-like. But whatever the intention was, I think it came out great. I think it was on point. And the fact that they, again, reflected that particular interplay of highly polished and grain brush surfaces on a very different material, on a material that was so much harder to finish, ceramic. I think it takes basically 7 times as long to finish apply the same finish to ceramic as opposed to, let's say, stainless steel. So I was really impressed by that. I was impressed by how light and supple the watch was. And this particular one was actually bought from the AP boutique in Paris. And to commemorate that, it literally had a depiction of the Eiffel Tower on the oscillating weight of the watch. You can find in the shorts the videos that I took of the watch, but I was absolutely stupid and didn't film the exhibition case back, so I still beat myself up for that. But that was an amazing watch that I saw in an auction preview. So 2 perpetual calendars, two APs, you can already tell it's not a coincidence. I do want to talk about the new releases. Now, I'll give you a little bit of an insider's info here because I have my connections and I see and hear some of these things through the grapevine. And as you guys know, AP just brought in a new CEO, Ilaria Resta, who took over from François-Henri Benamias. And you would probably also remember that they released a watch last year, I believe, at any rate, before Benamias went out, called Universel. That was basically inspired by a very complicated pocket watch that they had made in the past. And they basically made a modern version of that with a high number of complications and really in a kind of foolproof execution in terms of the use of the perpetual calendar, in terms of how to set the perpetual calendar specifically. And what I heard was that was the watch they were actually planning for the 150th anniversary. And Benamias didn't want that. Benamias didn't want to lose the shine on that project that that he led for a number of years, only for the new CEO to take credit for it, which I think is a little bit unfair. I think he got enough credit, he got enough props for what he built over, I think, roughly a decade, for which he had been the CEO of the company, and he served AP for much longer than that. Anyway, so they were supposed to hold off on the release of Code 1159 Universel. That was supposed to be reserved for the 150th anniversary. And if you are feeling a little bit deflated, if you are expecting something much more incredible, much more impressive, much more groundbreaking from Audemars Piguet, that's the reason. Benamias is guilty for that. He didn't want anyone to steal his thunder, so he made them release that watch before he went out as CEO. By the way, I see again some familiar people. Evan H., thank you so much. I love you, my friend. It was a great pleasure to meet you in New York. Hopefully we'll see each other again. I can't really need your name, but it ends with 99. What got you into watches? It was my father, who passed away when I was very young, but my mom gave me his watch as a graduation present, his Rolex Submariner 5513 as a graduation present to me when I was going off to college. So that's what got me into mechanical watches, and I've been collecting ever since. So that makes it 22 years now, 22 years in the game. ABNS 92, lovely to see you, man. So we're talking about the new releases of AP. Honestly, I loved it. One of the things that really got me into AP, even when I didn't have any serious watches myself, was in fact the kinds of things they were presenting, they were exhibiting, they were celebrating around their 125th anniversary. That was obviously around 2000, the new millennium, right? A lot of people hate this design with some passion, but I love it, probably for the same reason, the AP millenary, right? That's hence the name, right? That was one of the special things that they came out for their 125th anniversary and um, the new millennium. So I really appreciate that they are doing a lot of special things now in a much more successful era for them in a commercial sense. Um, and it's, it brings back memories. I'm not going to tear up, of course, for AP, but it brings some of that excitement back for me. Now, I think the cynic in me wants to say, Back to the Future, welcome to 1985, a perpetual calendar that could be set just by the crown has already been done. Thank God for Kurt Klaus and everything that he has done for the watch industry at IWC. I really, really love this guy. He's still with us, by the way. I think he has recently turned 90, so he's 91 now. Still doing, I think, mostly ceremonial stuff, but still actually present in Schaffhausen, which I find amazing. But the perpetual calendar module that he invented for the Valjoux 7750 chronograph base was actually all crown operated in terms of the adjustment already in 1985. But that being said, let's be real, I really love the perpetual calendar references that they introduced. The limited edition one is incredible. I think until that one came out, they didn't really have a non-ceramic AP Royal Oak with an open-worked perpetual calendar configuration. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's just a limited edition, but aesthetically, I really love it. I love how they have used titanium, because to me, the lightness, the suppleness, in combination with the ultra-thin aesthetic of the Royal Oak is one of the most important aspects of that watch. I like the way they accented it with what do they call it? Bulk metallic glass. I'm still waiting for a full titanium Royal Oak of any kind, and I'm guessing that they don't get that same interplay, same kind of effect when they do that on the classic Royal Oak bracelet. I guess that's at least part of the reason. But at any rate, that one looks amazing, and as someone who geeks out about details, I love the special fonts that they used for Audemars Piguet in that watch. I absolutely adore it. Of course, they have a non-limited version of that that's based on the same movement in stainless steel, which doesn't necessarily mean it will be a much easier watch to get. However, it's that perpetual calendar movement is now part of the catalog. And as ABNS implied with his question, they have retired the older JLC 920 based caliber. It's not coming back. It's the John Mayer collaboration they did actually with the limited edition perpetual calendar with that uniquely finished dial that harkened back to the Tuscan dials of old was basically the last AP Royal Oak with that base movement. Enthusiast for life, sending positive vibes. Love you. Thank you so much. The oh yes, so Vacheron is the last one standing when it comes to using that same ultra-thin tractor movement base JLC 920 to power their ultra-thin watches and specifically ultra-thin perpetual calendars. So if you want to buy something new, something at retail, and you are just hell-bent on getting that movement in an open worked configuration, you would have to go to Vacheron Constantin and get an overseas open worked ultra-thin perpetual calendar. I think they have it in white gold and pink gold. But they're both spectacular watches, stunning pieces. By the way, as I was thinking about the John Mayer limited edition perpetual calendar, obviously above and beyond everything that I mentioned, or rather the two watches that I mentioned, anytime I come across a Tuscan dial, that's always very, very, that's an experience. And the modern way they do it, I don't think is the same. I don't think it has that same sort of organic, arbitrary, random texture to it. It looks much more refined in a way, as if it were done by machine. I will leave it at that. So to have an AP with a Tuscan dial would probably be one of the ultimate grails for me, at least. And I'm sure there are many who would agree with that. So that's all I will say about AP's new releases. You know, my mom taught me well, so when I don't have anything good to say, I don't say anything at all. So I have absolutely nothing to say about Code 1159, that they're still trying to push the unsuspecting customer. I actually appreciate the Royal Oak offshores always. You know, I have a skinnier wrist, so they will never be the watch for me. But that being said, I'm always intrigued by new releases, and I also like the way that they use ceramic in the Royal Oak Offshore series, in the bezels and the pushers. And I actually really like that aesthetic, you know, like the original Beast was always one of my favorite watches in terms of how it looked. Usually on how it looked on other people's wrists. So I like that, and I have an incredible amount of respect for Emmanuel Guet as a designer. So he has done so much for Audemars Piguet, for the future of the Royal Oak in ways people don't always recognize and give him credit for. So I just want to make a note of that. I have a few more questions to answer, so I really appreciate you. I think you're already doing a lot by being here, by listening to me ramble, even if I'm answering your questions. But if you could just hit the like button if you haven't done so already, and if you haven't actually subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do that now. I need your support. I need to bring some of the energy that I've been creating, some of the vibes I've been generating on Instagram to here, to this platform as well. And also, you know, YouTube has been very actively encouraging me to go to live vertically for the longest time now. So for this video to shine a little bit, to get a little bit more traction, to a little bit more interest, a little more support as well, would probably send a good message to them as well. Um, that's all I will say. If you want to support the stream, again, that would be great. But I'll continue answering some more questions. Maybe go for another 15, 20 minutes or so. Vianush says, your Instagram account is fantastic. Thank you so much. It means a lot. So much knowledge. Again, I'm very humbled, but that's how I'm trying to distinguish myself. That's the niche that I'm trying to carve, right? I don't want my account to be just another watch spotting page because it's so much more than that. Curious to know, how do you speak so well in French? Well, I would like to remind you that I'm just pronouncing French words. My pronunciation is okay, and I take your compliment for that. That being said, I'm not fluent, and I'm not as fluent as I would like in French. That's something I would like to improve, but I mostly owe it to pillow talk. I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to sound cool, but honestly, I've had very long relationships with a couple of French women, and one of them absolutely refused to speak to me in any other language, even though my French at the time was nothing. Like, it was practically non-existent. But she insisted, and I love that for her. I love that for me, because it actually taught me a lot of French, and I can at least hold simple enough conversations, and as a passive reader and listener, actually consume all kinds of information. So I can read, I can understand fully. I just have a harder time expressing myself fluently. But again, thank you for the question, and thank you for what I take as a compliment. Original OC says, young Brando definitely has a fantastic and very successful IG presence. Great content. Thank you so much. Cloud Ken and I are preparing for an upcoming live stream where we will literally sit down, watch in the background some of Canelo's most controversial fights and score them round by round, because Cloud Ken is a Canelo hater and I'm a Canelo fanboy. So we're going to settle that debate, and I'm going to answer his question in that spirit. Favorite boxers of all time, it's a mind-blowingly difficult question to answer for me, because I'm one of those old school minded guys who watches a lot of tape, and I would love to also talk about some of the fighters from the so-called murders row and everything, who no one really talks about, no one has really watched or even read about. But I'm not sure if it is helpful in a general answer like this to go all the way historical, all the way back, all the way to boxers that no one has really watched in an educated way. So I'll try to keep it to kind of boxers that I watched in my lifetime, and I'll say maybe like 5. I'll name 5. When I was growing up, I was actually a big fan of Oscar de la Hoya. I think he had a lot of, he has a career trajectory similar to Canelo, which shouldn't surprise you, because Oscar and his Golden Boy Promotions was behind Canelo's rise as a promoter, and the way they have been matched is very similar. There are controversial decisions that have gone their way that perhaps should have gone the other way. But I liked actually his work ethic. I liked the fact that he fought 4 or 5 times a year at certain stretches of his career. I was a huge fan of Juan Manuel Marquez. Um, I was a huge fan of Marco Antonio Barrera. I was a huge fan of Floyd Mayweather. More recently, I have to say, I loved Triple G and his run in middleweight boxing. I also love Roman Gonzalez, Chocolatito. I think what he has done over the course of his career in terms of winning legitimate championships in 4 weight classes and having all these crazy matchups, I respect him a lot. And you know what? The main reason I love him is he's one of the most skilled boxers defensively, even though he fights on the front foot. And that's a very difficult art to master. Right? You can. It is still an art, and it is still very difficult to defend well, hold your opponent at an arm's length, and dance around him. Cynical people will say to be on your bicycle and whatever. That's also difficult, and I appreciate that kind of defensive boxing, but it's much harder to be on the offense, on your front foot, and still be defensively sound. And Chocolatito does that really well. And in the moments he had lapsed, he got knocked out. So, it's not perfect, of course. Terry Civil Watch, Austin, I appreciate you. I love that because I actually have a beautiful embellished print done by an artist that depicts the so-called Four Kings. So, I love Roberto Duran. I love Marvin Hagler. I love Tommy Hearns. I love Sugar Ray. I love those guys as well. And Cloud Ken says your boxing history knowledge matches your watch knowledge. I wish it would. I wish it would. I would have done a boxing channel. I'm just joking. It's not even the knowledge. For me, I think the passion matches. And when you have the passion, when you have the genuine interest, and you have a certain cast of mind, it's hard not to follow that path to learn more about it. And that's what I try to do on my platforms as well, right? Yes, I teach things, I try to educate people, I try to inform people, but it is only as a result of a process, of a long-term process a lot of times, where I have to learn so much. And I try to learn something new every day, especially when it comes to watches, because I really, really respect what I do and really respect my audience. So I really appreciate your support. Again, if you haven't subscribed to me on YouTube, hit the like button, hit subscribe, click the notification bell or whatever else. I'm very inept in describing these things, but any way you can support this channel and my platforms at large is invaluable to me. I kind of like this format, by the way. I think I will do more of these vertical streams, maybe even do them concurrently on YouTube and on Instagram as time goes by. But I'm gonna turn this into a regular thing. Thomas Burnett, it's so nice to see you, man, and thank you. I hope I will catch up with my Instagram here too, and it only has to do with the kind of work and with the amount of work I put into it. I focus more on Instagram because of certain life changes and certain personal and familial issues that I don't wanna bore you with. I I want to translate some of that momentum, some of that uh, strength here. And yes, it pays off. I think I think that is the story with my Instagram account, right? You know, I was always resourceful. I was always posting what I consider, in my humble way, great content. But it took about 2 years and a half for the community to catch up with it. Um, and finally, I think it's seeing value because look, I mean, 15,000 followers is just the beginning because that Instagram account has more than 5.5 million views over 30 days consistently. This has been the case for the last 3 months. So it's a platform that's been uh, very, very important for me and will continue to be important even as I try to grow more on YouTube as well. So yeah, those numbers speak for themselves. If anyone wants to sponsor me or advertise anything, luxury related, feel free. We are gonna do great. My last few questions, and I have about 13 minutes left, are going to be about revivals of heritage brands and specifically on Lange Söhne. We're going to get back to that now. That's a language that I actually speak fluently and absolutely adore. That's German. So we'll get to that next. Kaizu says, any favorite eggshell creamy dial dress watches in white gold platinum under 40 millimeters? That's an incredibly specific question. I hope you join my live stream later, perhaps already tonight, and remind me of this question because I like being able to pull things up and talk about them in some more detail when I'm answering questions like that. And I have just about 12 minutes left and two more earlier audience questions that have been submitted. So I want to respect their priority. Of course, you can always twist my arm with a super chat or what, but I'll still focus on this, I believe, now. Deutsche Sprache. Geil. Not just great, but epic content. Thank you. So one of my followers on Instagram asked me about my opinion on Lange and their recent dip in the market. I love everything Lange Söhne has done and everything that brand represents. Because to me, it being in so many ways the brainchild and the passion project of Günther Blümlein, who has been leading at the same time jaeger-lecoultre and IWC. It's very important. The fact that he had this project post-German reunification to bring back a German watchmaking brand that had this history, that had this legacy, but that was not recognized by collectors for their modern watches. I think it's absolutely mind-blowing because, of course, there were collectors who had many of the classic Lange pocket watches and everything, but this was something that was practically started from scratch, right? That's why the first quartet of watches that they produced, three of them use JLC gear trains, and the Tourbillon pour le mérite actually was built by Renaud Papi, which is today integrated, of course, to Audemars Piguet as their complications workshop. So you already see I'm talking about revival, but that's the thing, right? It was a big challenge. The watchmakers actually finished their training at IWC's facilities in Schaffhausen before they came back to Glashütte to start making Lange Söhne watches in earnest. I like the kind of consistency they have, and that's very important. We're going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about revival of legacy brands. You know, something that Patek Philippe has lost today is that level of attention to detail that you can see from the entry level all the way up to the absolute high of high horology. Today, when you get an entry level Patek Philippe, you are still getting a very special watch. You're still getting lots of heritage, lots of brand recognition. You are getting oftentimes good design, but in terms of the finishing of those watches, you are getting very much an industrial product, something that's not only serially produced, but that looks every bit serially produced as anything else. When it comes to Lange, you see the same quality, same level of attention to detail from a simple Saxonia thin dress watch all the way up to a Datograph Perpetual, all the way up to Zeitwerk, you know, decimal repeater. It's the same precision. It's the same level of handwork. It's the same commitment to quality, which I have to also admit has slipped a little bit in the last decade or so, perhaps, with Lange. I think it was even more solid. But people used to say that Lange is basically the serially produced independent maker, even though they are obviously corporate owned by the luxury conglomerate Richemont. And I think their product still reflects that to a large extent, even though they're of course making more watches today than they ever have. I don't know if they're going to significantly bump up that number. I hope they don't, because I feel Lange is a brand that has stretched itself a little too thin and played a little bit fast and loose after the very well-deserved attention they got post-pandemic. I think the release of that integrated stainless steel sporty piece in Odysseus brought them a lot of attention, brought in a lot of customers who were not familiar with the brand and who have become hooked in time and realize that they have not only more watches, but better watches than the Odysseus. And obviously, that brought in a lot of speculators who wanted to buy these watches and flip them, buy these watches as an investment opportunity. And that combined with the built-in the inner scarcity of the product, um, I think I got stuck. Okay, it's going now. There was something going on there. All right, we're back. So yes, I think Lange was underappreciated, undervalued for such a long time, and when they got that boost of the again well-deserved attention in the post-pandemic era, those prices jumped up significantly, twice, three times as much. 10 my lovely friend, thank you so much. 6 shekels, the official currency of the channel. I appreciate you so much. Fries with mayo, it's nice to see you as well. Please hit the like button too, guys. I really appreciate your support. So um, we were talking about Lange and their fortunes in the market. Um, so some of what the secondary market on Lange is experiencing now, you can simply classify it as a correction, um, in the sense that I think the prices are going to come down, continue to come down, um, and reach more realistic levels, maybe not back to pre 2019, 2017 with Lange, because now more people know about that brand and the value of that brand. However, um, there are also a lot of long-standing customers that over time became very embittered with the brand, especially with the rising service costs, especially with how the boutiques have treated them, how the boutiques refuse to recognize their purchasing history from authorized dealers that they had patronized for years. And that's a conundrum that we will talk about, because that's an industry-wide problem. I don't think Lange is particularly experiencing a problem on the secondary market that really sets them apart. It's just that they had perhaps almost no attention from the mainstream, and I mean the mainstream of the watch market, and suddenly they had all this attention, all this boost, some kind of an hype that was reflected in the prices, and it's going to come down inevitably. The important thing is, how is the brand going to balance that with the way they have raised their prices consistently over the last several years, because that's going to create a whole chasm between retail pricing and the pricing on the secondary market, and that can become a huge problem. That's something that we are going to talk about on the next live stream. 2 more minutes, so I'm going to answer this question that was about revival brands. A friend of mine was saying that brands like Nevada, Grenchen, Farley-Hubert, Universal Genève are coming back or have already come back. What do you think about that? And what other brands you would like to see revived? The two brands that I would like to see revived, I can say that very quickly, are Enicar and Gaillet. I'm not going to go into the details for that. For reviving brands, I think Lange's example is fantastic. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes the sort of mindset that focuses on an entire catalog that would appeal to the contemporary customer, rather than just creating historical reproductions, which some diehards might ask for, but would rarely buy, because their heart is in the classics anyways, that they can acquire probably at a fraction of how these things would retail today in the watch market that has completely become a luxury market. So I think that's the challenge that is facing heritage brands that are being revived, and that's specifically the challenge that Universal Genève is going to face. And that's something that we are going to return as well. Please hit the like button before I sign off. One last thing I will say before I sign off, because this was also a question. Abel, is it coming back? I think it is. I'm not a huge fan of the aesthetic. I still like it as an object. I still like seeing it on other people's wrists, but I'm really not a big fan of the wave bracelet. The case design is less of an issue for me, and I can hang with it. I like their chronographs and more complicated pieces. I think there's still great value in them, but now that some of the prominent collectors like Alfredo Paramico came forward and spoke on them, Philips profiled them, obviously there's going to be a certain bump in the market. So if you wanna snatch one of those pieces before the prices jump up to even more crazy levels, to unseen levels, at least for a blip, I suggest that you get into that game now. That was about Abel. Haven't Breitling bought Gaillet? We'll talk about that next time. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with me for more than an hour again. I was hell-bent in trying to keep this right under an hour, but we went a little bit over an hour, which is fine. I'm happy to be with you. I'll come back again. I will start doing these vertical streams more often. If you want to support the platform, support the streams, please come to the live streams. Don't forget to upvote. Don't forget to support in other ways that you would like, but certainly hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're not following me on Instagram for whatever reason, that's at young.brando. I'm at youngbrando on YouTube, live from Los Angeles. Signing off now. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches.